Welcome to Excel magic trick number 1355. Hey, if you want to download this Excel workbook and follow along, Excel magic trick 1355 finished or the start file so you can follow along, click on the link below the video. Hey, we got a great video here. We need to see how to extract records based on bold font from a column and display it horizontally. Now, this video is inspired by Oz and Kevin at YouTube. Here are their YouTube channels. They have awesome videos here. And here's the video they made. Unstacked data that is separated by bold text. Now, Oz did an awesome Power Query solution, and Kevin did both a formula and VBA solution. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do a formula solution, but this video is going to have all sorts of amazing, cool little tricks, like learning about the get.cell macro function and things like universal relative cell reference in a defined name and a bunch of other cool topics. Here's our list of people. Bold means they're a parent. Not bold means they're children. And look what we need to do. This is one record, and I need to display it horizontally, parent and children. Then I need to go down to the next record, display parent and children. Now, the crazy thing here is here's a column of data, and the trigger for what to start extracting for a record is bold. So how are we going to do that with formulas? I'm going to go over to the start file. Here is the start file. Now, I'm actually going to use a function called get.cell. But guess what? This is a really old function. This goes all the way back to Excel 4, and it's called a macro function. The problem with macro functions is they don't work on a normal Excel spreadsheet like this. Now, I'm actually going to insert a macro sheet that's an object that goes all the way back to Excel 4 and show you how it works on the sheet. And then we'll use a defined name to access it on our sheet. Now, to get a macro sheet, you could come down to the sheet and right-click. And when you point to Insert, if you've ever done this before and you were wondering what all these objects are, well, we know what a worksheet is. We know what a chart sheet is. But look at that. Excel 4 macro, Excel 5 macro. You could double-click this, or you can use the keyboard Control F11. Now, here we are in cell A1. I'm going to put a name, Control-Enter, Control-B. And we want to see the get.cell function. Now, there's two arguments. The first argument is, what information do you want about this cell? If I put a 6, it would actually show me the formula. If I put a 20, it tells me true when it sees bold and false when it does not see bold. Now, I'll show you in a second. I have a list of all the numbers for this first argument. 20, comma, and then I have my cell right there, close parentheses. Now, when I Control-Enter, what? Look at that. It's in show formula mode. When you open up a macro sheet like this, it's automatically in show formula mode. If you go up to formulas, there it is. You can use that button or the keyboard Control grave accent tilde. Now, Control grave accent tilde is a toggle that works anywhere to either show formulas or not show them. And look at that. Get.cell20 is showing me true. If I click right there and Control-B to unbold it, what? Hey, there's a problem on the macro sheet. We would actually have to put it back in edit mode and then hit Enter for it to properly work. But there it is. That is this function we're going to try and access back on the sheet 1355. Now, we're going to need that get.cell formula right here and copy it all the way down. But we're going to have to put that function inside a defined name by going up to Formulas, Name Manager, or we can use the keyboard Control F3. Now, there's something else we have to think about here. If I'm going to use a defined name that has a formula that's pointing at a cell reference. When I copy the formula down, I need the cell reference to be a relative cell reference. So the way you do this in a defined name is select a cell where you first want to put your formula. And then I'm going to use Control F3 to open up Name Manager. Click on New Name. I'm going to give it a name. Hey, I'm going to call it IsBold. And then down here refers to, I'm going to delete that using the delete key. And I'm going to type equals get.cell, open parentheses, then a 20, comma. And watch this. When I select on A23 there, it's trying to be polite. It puts in an absolute reference. The first thing I need to do is hit the F4 key 3 times to make it A23 without any dollar signs. And very carefully, before the exclamation point, I backspace. Now, we could have just typed exclamation point A23. However you do it, I am building a formula in this new name refers to text box. And it's got to be from the point of view of the current cell that's selected in the spreadsheet. That little strange construction right there will always be a relative cell reference. So when I use IsBold anywhere in the spreadsheet, it'll know to use a relative cell reference, which is one cell to the left. All right, close parentheses. Click OK. Click Close. Now I'm going to try this. Equals IsBold. And I can see in the dropdown there's a gold dog tag, which means this is a defined name. But there it is. Control Enter. And because I was in an Excel table already, it automatically copied down. That is amazing. Look at that. Now, one thing you have to contend with anytime you use macro functions is if I change this bold, it will not automatically update. Anytime we use this function, we're going to use the keyboard to recalculate all, Control-Alt F9. Now I'm going to come over here, Control-B, and now use Control-Alt F9. And sure enough, they all recalculated. Now, Bell is still a parent, so I'm going to Control-B and then Control-Alt F9. Now, we have trues and falses. We have a marker that says this is the start of a new record. When I get down to a new true, that's the start of the next record I need to extract. Now, for our formulas over here, I would like this series of trues and falses to all show the number 1, these to show all the number 2 to indicate that's the first record, this is the second record. So I'm going to come to the top here, F2, and I'm going to put IsBold inside the sum function. Close parentheses, Control Enter, and copied it down. We can see the sum by itself converts those trues and falses to 1s and 0. But I really want 1, 1 here, and 2, 2, 2. So watch this. F2, I'm going to tell the sum function, comma, to add 1 cell above. Now, I do not want that table formula nomenclature, so I'm going to click there and type a relative cell reference B22. Now, the sum function will have no problem ignoring the text right here. But when I enter, what's happening now is that is adding the 1 from above plus that false, which was a 0, and so on. When it gets down to here, it then sees a true right here and adds a 1. Here, it's adding a false plus that 2 right there, and so it gets 2 all the way down. Now, the next step in our formulas is I need to count how many parents there are. I'm going to come up to this cell, and I'm going to use the max function and simply highlight using the table formula nomenclature. The name of the table is T people, and fields are always in square brackets. So automatically, it'll look and find the max is 7, and that is the number of parents. Enter. Now, I need to extract the parent names. I'm going to use a lookup function, the index function. The index array function are the actual items I potentially want to look up. So that is table formula nomenclature. on the people column, comma. Now I need what's called a row number and index, but it's really the relative position. Right here, I need relative position 1. But for the second parent, I need relative position 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, luckily, this column has repeats in it. So if I use the match function to look up the number 1, it would report the first position only. It would ignore these other number 1s. If I had a lookup value of 2, it would automatically know to say, hey, what relative position is it in? 4, and it would ignore all these other 2s. Now, that means in the lookup value here, I need a 1 here, then a 2, then a 3 as I copy the formula down. So I'm going to use the rows function. Now, I'm actually sitting in the cell D25, so I type $25 colon D25, close parentheses. Now, rows will always look at a range and tell you how many rows there are. Well, notice how many rows are from 25 to 25? 1. But notice that 25 is locked. So when I copy this down, that will move to 26, 27, 28. So rows is going to be our number incrementer inside our formula, comma. And then look up array using table formula nomenclature there. Now remember, match, when it looks up 1, will only see that one and ignore all of these. But the trick to getting it to ignore duplicates is comma. The match type has to be exact match, 0. Close parentheses. So row number will be our match, close parentheses. And index will look up each one of the parents. Now I'm going to copy this down. And look at that. When we come down to Desiree, if I were to click on row number, remember here, match is looking up 1, 2, 3, 4, so the number 5. Actually, we could go like this. Inside of match, we could go like this. F9 to see the 5. And then inside of index, the row number, match better be returning F9, 14. Desiree is in relative position 14. And then, of course, index looks it up. Now, I'm going to click Escape here. Now, we need to get rid of those NAs. And I'm not going to use if error, although that would be fine here because this is a small data set. But I'm going to stick with my consistent rule that if I have a formula that's calculating and I have an alternative logical test that's available to turn the formula off down here, I'm going to use that because it should be faster calculating. Now, I need a number incrementer. So watch this. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy that from match lookup value. And in the logical test, I'm going to say, hey, number incrementer when you are greater than the count of parents. And I'm going to use the F4 key to lock this. If that comes out true, comma, the value if true, please show nothing with double quote, double quote. Now, that double quote is considered text that has 0 length. And that will actually help us later in our formulas for the rest of the table, comma. Otherwise, if you haven't passed row 7 yet, then please run the whole formula. The advantage to these types of formulas, of course, is that this value if false formula will not even be run down here. It'll just run the logical test, which calculates quickly, and then dump a 0 length text string in. Close parentheses, Control Enter, and double click and send it down. Now we need to count number of children. Now I'm going to use equals count ifs. But instead of criteria range highlighting this column where the actual children are, I'm simply going to highlight our bold question mark column and comma. For my criteria, I'm going to choose to count all the 1s, then all the 2s, then all the 3s, and subtract 1. So hopefully in criteria 1, I can Control V. I still have my number incrementer. Right now, COUNTIFs will count how many 1s are in this column. And then when it goes down, it'll count number of 2s and so on. Close parentheses. Now, if I Control Enter and double click and send it down, of course, that's 1 too many. I have the column highlighted, active cell at the top, so I hit F2. I subtract 1, Now to populate that edited formula down, I hold Control and Enter. And that will be the correct count for children. Now I need to turn it off when I get past row number 7. So I come up to the top, F2, if function, and I'm going to ask the question, hey, cell 1 to my left, are you equal to double quote, double quote? Remember, down here, these are 0-length text strings. If that's the case, it comes out true, comma, then what do I want? Double quote, double quote. That 0-length text string. Comma, and then there's the value if false. Come to the end, close parentheses, Control Enter, double click and send it down. Now, if we really wanted parent and child right next to each other, we could put this before or after or somewhere else. But I kind of like it right here. Parent, number of children, and then the list of names. Now, pretend you didn't see this step right here. I forgot to remove this. For the time being, I'm going to leave the column headers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because that's going to be part of our formula. We'll come back and change it to child 1 later. Well, if we're going to look up the children's names, I'm still going to use the lookup function index. Now, the array, those are the items you're potentially looking up. I'm definitely going to look through that column because I need to return the actual names. Now, there's going to be a problem here because this is table formula nomenclature. Table, field name in square brackets. But table formula nomenclature on a column reference acts strangely. If I copy down, it's locked. But if I copy it to the side, that people column right here will actually move to show bold. So I need to lock it, and the F4 key doesn't work. So you actually have to use double square brackets, come to the end of the field name in square brackets, colon, square brackets. I can see people shows up, so I hit Tab, square bracket, square bracket. That is confusing sometimes, but it is how we lock a column when we're using table formula nomenclature. So that's the entire lookup range. And copy down and over, every cell is going to need to pick things from that column, comma. And now we need to think of row number or relative position. For the first parent, I need 2, 3. For the second parent, I'm going to need 5, 6, 7, and 8. So for our row number or relative position, I'm actually not going to look up the parent name. And the reason why is, notice John right here. If I were going to use the match function to look up the name, well, look at this. There is a child that's John, but down here there's a parent. Now, actually, Brian XYZ at YouTube helped me figure out that looking up the parent name wouldn't work. But no problem. We have this column right here. We can look up the number 1. It'll say that this record starts in position 1. When I look up the number 2, it'll say this parent-child record starts in position 4. So for row number, I use match. And then the lookup value, we're going to use our number incrementer rows. Now I'm sitting in F25, $25 colon F25. Close parentheses. That will give me 1 as I copy it across the columns and 1, 2, 3, 4 as I copy down, comma. Lookup array, I highlight the entire bold column. Now we need to lock this in all directions, so we have to do our table formula nomenclature. Open square bracket, colon, open square bracket, B tab, close square bracket, square bracket. And the match type, comma, has to be exact match. The reason why is when we look up 1, we want match to say position 1. When it looks up 2, I want it to report position 4. By using exact match, it totally ignores duplicates and only finds the first occurrence. Close parentheses. Now, this is not going to work. If I copy this to the side, match would give me 1, 1, 1, when I really want for the first record 2, 3. Well, if match, boom, is going to report 1 all the way across the columns, I can simply add the column header, which is the number of children. And I need to lock this with the F4 key once and twice. Lock the row, but not the column. Notice match delivers 1 child. That is 2. That's perfect for Francisco. Match delivers 1 plus 2 children. That's 3. That's perfect for for Rama. Now I come to the end, close parentheses on index, Control Enter. When we copy it over and double click and send it down, we're going to have a bunch of trouble. But no problem, we'll fix it. But let's see, did it get Francisco and Rama? Sure it did. How about for Bell, John, Veronica? John, Veronica. And for John, I got Mike, Selma, Emerson. That's looking good. Now we need to think of a logical test to turn the formula off when we get past the number of children and when we're copying it down when it sees a first row over here that has a 0-length text string. So I'm going to come to the top cell, F2. Hey, we're going to use the if function to turn on and off the actual index formula. So I say if, and in the logical test, we have one of two tests, so we're going to use the OR function. Logical 1, I'm going to first test number of children. So column header number of children, F4 to lock it on the row but not the column. When that counter of children is greater than the actual number of children, and I'm going to lock that with the F4 key, lock the column but not the row, comma. The second test is, hey, just look at the number of children formula, and I need to lock it with the F4 key 1, 2, 3 times. Lock the column but not the row. When that's equal to double quote, our 0-length text string, which of course it is equal down here, that will be our second logical test. Close parentheses, comma. And so all the OR is doing is it delivering one of two tests. Either one comes out true, then what do we want to display? We do not want to run the formula. So for the value of true, we simply display nothing with our 0-length text string. Otherwise, then the value of false, the formula will be run. Come to the end, close parentheses, Control Enter, copy it over, double click and send it down. Wow, that's certainly a lot cleaner. And it looks like it's getting the right values. Now I want to change this. I do not want to see 1, 2, 3 as column headers. I want to have the word child 1, child 2, and so on. Well, wait a second. That formula definitely needs the number. Well, no problem. That's where number formatting comes to the rescue. We can keep the number in the cell, but display it however we want using number formatting. Control 1 is the keyboard to open up format cells. I come down to Custom, Type, Text Box. I highlight General. And now in double quotes, I type child. And I'm going to put a space and double quote. Now notice you can see the preview there. When I type a 0, that will show the number. That custom number formatting will work. Click OK. That is amazing. Now, let's see if our formulas work when we add data to the bottom of the table. Now remember, is bold and get.cell XL4 macro function always are going to require this keystroke. So watch this. Down here, I'm going to type SIOUX, Control Enter, Control B to add bold because Sue is a parent. And look at that. That's not working, nor are the formulas for extracting. But remember, we have to use this keyboard, so I'm immediately going to use Control-Alt-F9. And look at that, Sue 8, and there is Sue. Now I can add Sue's children. Billy, tab, tab. Rena, tab, tab. And Sheila, tab. Look at that. Now we could test it the other way. If Desiree really, in fact, is not a parent, I could Control-B and then Control-Alt-F9, and instantly everything updates. Control-Z to bring back that bold, Control-Alt-F9. Well, that was a lot of fun with some custom number formatting and a formula for extracting the children name, counting the number of children, extracting the parent names, using a defined name in our formula, Control-F3. We even created this is bold using get.cell and a universal relative cell reference, escape. And one last thing I almost forgot, off to the side. If you scroll up, here are some notes about all the possibilities for the get.cell function from number 1. And we used our 20 to see if the cell had bold. all the way down to 66. All sorts of different possibilities for extracting different information from different cells. I love hanging out on our awesome online Excel team. Thanks to Oz and Kevin for their awesome videos and the idea of extracting records based on bold. And thanks to Brian XYZ for helping me with the child extraction formula. We'll see you next video.